Hey guys, to start off this video, I gotta say, this theory is not mine, and it really isn't me presenting a full theory. I'm just presenting like the bare bones of it. I didn't go too much into research into it. All I did was watch the film that this theory is kind of basing off of. I'll explain more as to why, but I just didn't want to go too into it just because I have other projects I want to do, but I did want to have this video laid out and presented to you guys. So for those of you who were uninformed, maybe you guys can do your research and present even more evidence in this video, and you know, see what you guys can find. But anyways, let's get on with this video. So this video idea came from somebody who had commented on me in YouTube. The name is Lou, I think. I'm sorry if I didn't. I should have credited the name. I apologize, but you know who you are. But this person had basically told me a little bit about this whole thing with a certain movie being referenced in Tokyo Ghoul, and then just little things here and there. And so I did some research and whatnot, and this is what I found. So first off, in one of the chapters, I can't remember necessarily which chapter it is, but here's the panel. You can see in Hide's room that there is a poster for the Red Dragon. Now, this is one of the films that is, I think, from a trilogy of films, exclusively from a series of films involving Hannibal Lecter. Now, if you guys don't know who Hannibal Lecter is, he's basically this one guy who is in this series of films. It's based off of a book too, off of a novel series. But basically, in this book, this guy named Hannibal Lecter, he used to work. He's a cannibal. He kills people and eats people. He's also a very well-known doctor, well-respected doctor as well. And he used to work with the police in terms of forensics and everything, and like solving crimes through like body identification and research and whatnot. But this guy gets caught one day by an officer named Will Graham, who was a very close acquaintance to him, and sends him to jail and whatnot. The guy goes to jail and everything, but instead of being put in, given the death penalty, because this guy killed a lot of people before he got locked up, and he gets locked up in like maximum security. But instead of being killed, put in a death, given the death penalty, he is basically put in this psych ward where he is given this prison slash psych ward where he basically provides info to detectives and policemen who come to him with these very hard cases, because even though he was a cannibal and everything, even though he was insane, he's very, very smart. And when these people who are murdering others and whatnot are doing things, and they're seemingly getting away from the cops every time, the detectives come to Hannibal so that he could help them out. Even though he's insane, he does provide enough intel so that they could get things going, right? So what does this have to do with Tokyo Ghoul besides just the picture there? Now, it could just be Ishida throwing a little reference there. He's a big movie fan or whatnot, or a fan of Hannibal Lecter. It's a really good series anyways. You guys should check it out if you guys haven't seen any of the Hannibal series. There's also a TV series going on right now. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but I know that there's a recent TV series I heard it's pretty good. But anyways, what does this have to do with Tokyo Ghoul? Well, I went and watched this movie. I went and rewatched it because I had seen all the movies of the Hannibal Lecter, and it'd been a long time since I had seen this one. And it really was very interesting when I was watching it, where things kind of just came to mind and kind of clicked in a way. So this is what I kind of found, or kind of put things together. So first off, in the movie The Red Dragon, there's this character named Francis Dolarhyde. This guy is a very reclusive, introverted character who doesn't seem to have much communication with anybody, and in the past suffered a lot of abuse. And because of this, he ends up developing a sort of like a split personality disorder, where he has one part of him that's the introverted, very shy self, and then there's another part of him that is the Red Dragon, you could say. So what is this Red Dragon? So basically, this Red Dragon is a painting, if you can see in the background here. It's also in the movie poster, which I apologize I didn't get a full picture of, but it's also in the background of the overlay. It's an actual painting of this dragon, the very gothic esque looking painting, and it's very beautiful. But for some reason, Francis develops this split personality where the dragon in the painting represents a dominance or a very dominant character, seemingly the abuser in his psychosis, and what he mentally perceives the red dragon being is the dominant part of him, the part of him that takes action and whatnot. And this guy, Francis is trying to become the red dragon, but he doesn't. Part of him doesn't want to, and then the other part of him wants to, right? So there's the red dragon, and then there's Francis. Okay, it's kind of confusing, but if you watch the movie, it makes more sense. But this guy has like the painting tattooed in his back, and he's just weird, and he kills people to offer them a sacrifice to the red dragon, so that he could keep the red dragon content from taking over his mind. So he basically has a mental problem where he's fighting against himself from becoming this insane murderous killer, which he already is. But there's still a side of him that's like the sane, very childlike, innocent side, even though he's insane. And so in the movie, they get to help the officer, one of the main characters in the Hannibal series, his name is Will Graham. He requests the help of Hannibal to help him find out who this guy is, because nobody knows who he is and how he's killing people and whatnot. Because it's very mysterious how he's killing people. Anyways, the interesting thing is, when I got to thinking about it, I don't want to make this video too long, but when I got to thinking about it, you can kind of connect some characters to this series. And also, another thing is, when I started connecting little pieces here and there, a little theory came to mind, which blew me away when I thought about it. I'm like, if this comes to fruition, then it's like been in front of our faces the entire time, and no one had really thought about it. Maybe other people had, but I sure as hell didn't. But anyways, what is this? So first off, an interesting thing is, not this picture, but this one. So Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter is a person who is kept alive to give information on detectives and police officers when it comes to very hard cases to solve, on other murderers and whatnot, or provide information also on cannibals and how they work, because in this series a lot of cannibals are very smart. They're like serial killers and whatnot. But if you think about it, you know who's very similar to Hannibal in this regard? Somebody being kept in a high security, in a maximum security prison, without being sentenced to the death penalty and still providing information to the police, is Donato in Tokyo Ghoul. Now, if you remember who Donato was, he was the father of Amon, and the stepfather, you could say. He was also a priest, and for him being a priest, the children that he kept in that church, he would eat them little by little, just so that he wouldn't get caught, until he was eventually caught. But he wasn't killed, okay? He wasn't killed. He was sentenced to being coachlet in the bottom parts of Kokuria, and he was to give information and intel on ghouls, because this guy, despite being in the deepest part of Kokuria and everything, and being in jail for so long, he's had so much intel on ghouls and everything that he could provide to the CCG. So that connection there, it's like really similar. Those two characters, when you think about it, are very, very similar. Hannibal Lecter and Donato. They're both very intelligent. They both know what's going on in the outside world, despite being locked up. They both tempt the people who interview them and who confront them. Like Will Graham is always tempted by Hannibal. He always jokes around him. Mocks Will Graham. Hannibal does this, and he's very rude to him, and he always kind of battles him whenever they confront. And Donato does the same thing to anybody he approaches and anybody he wants to talk to. The people he doesn't want to, he just kind of brushes away. But the people he does talk to, like Amon and or Heise or Mutsuki, he did actually speak to, but in this very mockingly way. Like he joked around with them and said these very rude and inappropriate things. And he's just very, very mysterious, very ominous, exactly like Hannibal was in the movies and in the series. So those two connections are very, very similar, and I never come across that connection, but it's something very interesting. But here's another thing. Here's another kicker. So Francis, in the movie, the main villain in the movie, the bad guy in the villain they're trying to catch, he comes to this point where he falls in love with a woman, and he for some reason, the red dragon, this other part of him, is telling him through this painting, is telling him that in order for him to become the red dragon, for him to become the red dragon, he has to kill this woman that he has fallen in love with. But he doesn't want to kill her. The sane part of him doesn't want to kill her and everything. But he decides, in order to defeat the red dragon, he has to consume the red dragon. So what he does is he visits the museum where this painting is located, because it's a very famous painting, and he somehow gets a chance to see the painting really, really closely, and he eats the painting. He rips up the painting and he eats the painting, seemingly symbolizing him overpowering and overcoming the red dragon, and he becomes the red dragon in doing so. And the guy is just very, very crazy. Very, very crazy. He does get defeated in the end and whatnot. But here's the thing. So his name is Dolarhyde. The last four letters of his name is Hyde. I'm not kidding you. Hide's name obviously is spelled different. It's Hide. But if let's propose something here. If Ishida was referencing Dolarhyde to Hide, what if, this is crazy, this is out there, what if Hide has, since the beginning, had a multiple or a split personality disorder? Now, it sounds crazy, but remember this. There are a lot of characters who deal, one of the main themes in Tokyo Ghoul is identity and self-realization. And there's a lot of characters who have conflicts with this, who they truly are, or who they want to be, or who are they trying to be. And there's characters who have identity issues. Main character himself, Kaneki, has gone through various forms of his own identity being changed, right? And it's not for everybody's sake, but some characters have that. Like Kaneki's the main character who's had that. Mutsuki's another character who, you know, there's various characters that you can really reference this identity crisis theme into play. But one thing that never occurred to me is, think about Hide himself. He's very outspoken, very out there, very wild. Not wild, I should say. Just very energetic. And he's always like this. But he brought that balance to Kaneki, so that Kaneki wouldn't end up doing something crazy before he was a ghoul. But because of Hide just being very intelligent, very, very intelligent, and mysteriously becoming friends with Kaneki, I mean, it just seems coincidence that he became with Kaneki, and is really smart and was able to join the CCG very fast, and was always, you could see, very close to the Washus. What if there were two sides of Hide? One that we never saw, and one that we did. And the one that we did was the one that was always present. I know that's out there, and I personally don't believe it myself, but it's a possibility. And I had never even considered that possibility at all. But it would make sense. Imagine if Hide does return, right? And you guys have probably seen the other theory video. But if Hide does return, and he is this bad guy, what if he is this bad guy because this is the other personality, this is the other side of Hide. this is the red dragon, per se. I don't know. It might be going a bit too out there. I mean, it's just really, we're working off of one panel here. It could just be Ishida referencing. Again, I don't necessarily firmly believe it myself. I didn't do much research to really go into it, but I just thought it was interesting. But there's one more thing I did want to know, is the Abyss quote. Okay? Because the Abyss quote really does have to connect with Hannibal as well. So, what I'm talking about the Abyss quote is, like I said in the previous video, when Hide and Kaneki met, and before Kaneki fought Arima, he said, you know, can you fight for me one more time? He says, since there's only one way into the Abyss. And this line that he says at the end seems to reference one of Nietzsche's quotes saying, if you stare into the abyss will gaze at you. If you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back at you. Which is seemingly saying, you dabble into too much of what you hate, you end up becoming that same thing, right? So this is a huge connection to Hannibal Lecter, because Hannibal Lecter's relationship with the main character, with one of the main characters, the main detectives, named Will Graham, I've talked about it before. His relationship is very interesting because Will Graham is the guy who caught Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal hadn't been caught for years, and he'd been killing people for a long time. And it wasn't until Will Graham who ended up catching him. But Hannibal notices, and he's always noticed, that Will Graham is kind of the same psychologically. Like they're very similar to each other. And throughout these stories, Hannibal tries to convince Will into becoming like him. He tries to convince him to become a cannibal, and he says that you have the potential to do it. So he's convincing him to doing these things, but Will, fights it and whatnot. And it's kind of like this translates to the quote as well, because it says, if you stare long enough into the abyss will stare back at you. And this was something that, like, Hannibal was testing Will, saying that, if you keep on trying to solve these cases with these cannibals and everything like that, you might end up becoming one of these people. And Hannibal was seemingly tempting Will as the story went on. But, like I said, remember how Hide basically convinces Kaneki to go into the fight with Arima? Like, he just told him, listen, you have to go. And he says this line, there's only one way into the abyss. He was saying, you have to become the monster you didn't want to become. You have to become this person you didn't want to become. Like, he wasn't even giving him the option. I think I might be going to a bit out there and whatnot, but it's possible. It's possible. This is all I have for this theory thing, discussion, whatever you want to call it. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Anything you guys have found, anything guys you will see, or anything along the lines. I didn't want to present this because I knew it would be too long. It's already too long anyways. But let me know your guys' thoughts on it, what you guys think. Get back at me. We'll talk about this. And yeah, let me know all that in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, people. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.